She was on her hands and knees crawling across the cold kitchen floor like a wounded animal. 5 years old. Ribs showing through her torn dress. Her tiny fingers scraped at crumbs beneath the table while her stepmother ate roasted chicken 10 feet away. "Please," the little girl whispered. "Just one bite. I'll be good. I promise I'll be good." The woman laughed and threw a bone to the floor. "Dogs eat off the ground. So do you." But she forgot one thing. There was a real dog watching. A German shepherd who had been waiting 14 months for this moment. And when his master walked through that door, what the dog did made the whole world stop breathing. Before we continue this heartbreaking story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you believe every child deserves to be safe and loved, subscribe now and stay until the end. Because what happens next will make you hold your children tighter tonight. The black truck moved slowly down Cedar Mill Road, its headlights cutting through the autumn darkness. Marcus Cole gripped the steering wheel with both hands, his knuckles white against the leather. 14 months. 14 months since he had held his daughter. 14 months since he had heard her laugh. 14 months since he had tucked her into bed and promised her that Daddy would come home soon. "We're almost there, Shadow." The German shepherd in the back seat lifted his massive head. His ears rotated forward, catching sounds Marcus couldn't hear. Shadow was 5 years old, 85 pounds of muscle and loyalty. His coat was pure black, so dark he seemed to absorb the light around him. Marcus had trained him personally first as a tracking dog for the Wildlife Conservation Unit, then as a PTSD service animal after the nightmares started. Shadow had seen Marcus at his worst. He had pressed his warm body against Marcus's chest during panic attacks. He had led him out of dark mental spirals with nothing but a nudge and a steady gaze. But tonight, something was different about the dog. Shadow wasn't relaxed. He was sitting upright, his body rigid, his nose pressed against the window glass. A low sound rumbled in his chest. Not quite a growl, something deeper, something instinctual. "Easy boy," Marcus said. "We're going home? You remember home, don't you?" Shadow didn't look at him. The dog's amber eyes stayed fixed on something ahead, something Marcus couldn't see. Marcus shook off the unease. He was tired. 14 months of tracking an illegal poaching ring through 3 states would make anyone paranoid. He had slept in his truck more nights than he could count. He had eaten cold beans from cans. He had missed Christmas, Easter, and his daughter's 5th birthday. But it was over now. The operation was complete. 23 arrests. The ring was dismantled. And Marcus had been given 3 weeks of leave to recover. 3 weeks with his little girl. He smiled for the first time in days. He had stopped at a toy store 2 hours ago and bought the biggest stuffed unicorn they had. Purple with a silver horn and rainbow mane. Lily had drawn pictures of unicorns in every letter she had sent him. At least the letters Diana said Lily had sent him. Marcus frowned at the thought. Something had felt off about those letters. The handwriting was too neat. The words were too formal. "Dear Father, I am doing well in school. I hope you are safe. Love, Lily." Lily didn't call him father. She called him Daddy. But Diana had explained it away. "I've been working with her on her penmanship," she had said during their weekly phone calls. "She's growing up so fast, Marcus. You'd be so proud." Marcus had believed her. He had wanted to believe her. Diana was his second wife. They had been married for 2 years. She was beautiful, composed, and organized. After Marcus's first wife, Sarah, had died in a car accident 3 years ago, Diana had appeared like an answer to a prayer. She was a church volunteer. She taught Sunday school. She had a teenage son named Ethan, who seemed polite and well-mannered. "Lily needs a mother," his own mother had said, "and you need someone to take care of things while you're working. Diana is perfect. Perfect." The word echoed in Marcus's mind as he turned onto Maple Street. The houses here were older, with wide porches and mature trees. His house was at the end of the cul-de-sac, a 2-story colonial with green shutters and a red door. Sarah had painted that door the week before she died. "Red means welcome," she had said, laughing as paint dripped onto her nose. "Red means love lives here." Marcus parked the truck 3 houses away. He wanted to surprise them. He had told Diana he wouldn't be home until Sunday, 2 days from now. He imagined Lily's face when she saw him. The way her eyes would go wide. The way she would scream, "Daddy!" and launch herself into his arms. He needed that. God, he needed that more than air. "Come on, Shadow. Let's go home." He opened the back door, but Shadow didn't jump out. The dog stood frozen on the seat, his hackles rising along his spine. His lips pulled back slightly, revealing the white edges of his teeth. "Shadow out." The command was firm. Shadow was trained to obey instantly, but the dog didn't move. He stared at the house at the end of the street, and the rumble in his chest grew louder. "What's gotten into you?" Marcus reached in and grabbed Shadow's collar, guiding him out of the truck. The dog landed on the pavement, but immediately pressed himself against Marcus's leg. His body was trembling. Not from cold, from something else. Marcus had seen Shadow face down a wounded bear without flinching. He had watched the dog track armed poachers through miles of wilderness without a hint of fear. Shadow was the bravest animal he had ever known. So why was he acting like this? "It's just home, boy. There's nothing to be afraid of." But even as he said the words, Marcus felt a chill run down his own spine. He looked at his house. Warm light glowed from the windows. He could see the flicker of the television through the curtains. Everything looked normal. Everything looked perfect. He grabbed the stuffed unicorn from the front seat and started walking. Shadow stayed pressed against his leg, matching his pace, exactly, his eyes never leaving the house. The closer they got, the more the dog trembled. Marcus stepped onto the porch. The wooden boards creaked under his boots. Through the window, he could see the dining room. Candles were lit on the table. Diana was sitting at one end, Ethan at the other. They were eating dinner. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, fresh bread. The table was set with the good china, the stuff Sarah's mother had given them as a wedding gift. Marcus's heart swelled. Diana had made a real family dinner. She was taking care of things just like she promised. But where was Lily? He scanned the visible part of the room. The table had 3 place settings, but only 2 people were eating. Maybe Lily had already finished. Maybe she was in the living room watching cartoons. Marcus reached for the door handle. Shadow lunged forward. The dog hit the door with his shoulder, forcing it open before Marcus could turn the knob. 85 pounds of black fur exploded into the house claws, scraping against the hardwood floor. "Shadow, no!" Marcus charged in after him, his heart hammering. What was the dog doing? Had he lost his mind? But Shadow didn't run to Diana. He didn't run to Ethan. He ran past the dining room, past the kitchen, toward the dark corner near the fireplace. And then he stopped. And then he started to whine. It was a sound Marcus had never heard Shadow make. High-pitched, desperate, broken. The dog dropped to his belly on the floor and crawled the last few feet, his tail tucked his ears flat against his head. "Shadow what?" Marcus stopped. His brain stopped. His heart stopped. In the dark corner of the living room, illuminated only by the faint glow of the television, a small figure crouched on the floor. A child. On her hands and knees. Her face pressed close to the ground. She was picking something up off the floor, putting it in her mouth, chewing. Crumbs. She was eating crumbs off the floor. Lily, the child's head snapped up, and Marcus felt his soul leave his body. It was his daughter. But it wasn't his daughter. The Lily he remembered had round cheeks and sparkling eyes and a smile that could light up a room. This child was a skeleton wrapped in skin. Her collarbones jutted out like wings. Her arms were thin as sticks. Her dress, the yellow dress with sunflowers that Sarah had bought her before she died, hung off her body like a sheet draped over a chair. But worse than her body were her eyes. Empty, hollow, dead. The eyes of a child who had stopped hoping. Daddy. Her voice was a whisper, cracked and dry, like she hadn't spoken in days. Shadow reached her first. The massive dog pressed his body against hers, licking her face, her hands, her arms. His whine turned into something else, a keening sound, a sound of grief. Lily! Marcus dropped the unicorn and ran. He slid to his knees beside her, his hands reaching for her face, her shoulders, her arms. His fingers touched bone where there should have been flesh. Oh my God, Lily, baby, what happened? What happened to you? Lily didn't answer. She stared at him with those empty eyes, and then she did something that destroyed him completely. She flinched. She flinched away from his touch like she expected him to hit her. No, baby, it's Daddy. It's Daddy. I'm not going to hurt you. I would never hurt you. Marcus! The voice came from behind him. Calm, measured, controlled. He turned. Diana stood in the doorway between the dining room and the living room. She was wearing a cream-colored blouse and pearl earrings. Her hair was perfectly styled. Her makeup was flawless. She looked like she had just stepped out of a magazine. She looked like nothing was wrong. "You're home early," she said. "What a surprise." Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed. His mind was screaming 1,000 questions, but none of them could make it past his lips. Ethan appeared behind his mother. 14 years old, tall for his age. He looked at Lily on the floor, at Shadow pressed against her, at Marcus on his knees. And he smirked. The smirk broke something in Marcus. "What did you do to her?" His voice was barely human. It came from somewhere deep in his chest, somewhere primal, somewhere that hadn't seen light in years. Diana's composure flickered, just for a second. "Marcus, let me explain. What did you do to my daughter?" He was on his feet now. He didn't remember standing. Shadow had positioned himself in front of Lily, his body a black wall between the child and the woman. "She needed discipline," Diana said, her voice hardening. "You were gone, Marcus. Someone had to raise her properly. She was spoiled. She was willful. She's 5 years old. She's a brat." Diana's mask slipped completely. Her beautiful face twisted into something ugly. "Do you know what it's been like? Taking care of your dead wife's child while you were off playing hero in the woods. She cries all the time. She asks for her mommy. She asks for you. It never stops." Marcus's vision went red. He stepped toward Diana, his fists clenched. "Marcus." Lily's voice, small and broken, stopped him. "Daddy, please don't yell. When people yell, I get locked in the closet." The closet. Marcus turned slowly. He looked at the door under the stairs. The closet where Sarah used to store Christmas decorations. The closet that was barely big enough for a vacuum cleaner. "You locked her in the closet." Diana lifted her chin. "Only when she misbehaved." "How often?" "That's not how often." Ethan laughed. Actually laughed. Every day, dude. Sometimes twice. Mom called it the thinking box. Shadow's growl filled the room. Low, dangerous, a sound that said, I am giving you one warning. Marcus looked at his daughter, at the bones showing through her skin, at the bruises on her arms that he could now see in the light, at the way she pressed herself against Shadow, like the dog was the only safe thing in her world. How long? His voice was quiet now. Quiet was worse. How long has this been happening? Lily looked up at him. Her cracked lips moved. Since you left, Daddy? Since the first night. 14 months. 14 months of starvation. 14 months of darkness. 14 months of cruelty. While he was tracking poachers through the wilderness, his daughter was being tortured in her own home. While he was sleeping in his truck, she was locked in a closet. While he was eating cold beans, she was picking crumbs off the floor. And he didn't know. He didn't know because Diana had sent him photos of Lily smiling. Diana had sent him letters in neat handwriting. Diana had told him everything was perfect. Everything was perfect. The photos, Marcus said. The letters, the phone calls, all lies. Diana shrugged. The photos were easy, a little makeup, a pretty dress. Ethan helped. He's very good at making her smile on command. Making her smile. She didn't want to do what we wanted, Ethan said, picking at his fingernails. So I told her if she didn't smile for the pictures, I'd drown her hamster. Works every time. Shadow lunged. The dog moved so fast Marcus barely saw it. 85 pounds of muscle and teeth launched at Ethan, knocking the teenager off his feet. Shadow stood over him, jaws inches from his face, a snarl ripping from his throat that sounded like death itself. "Call him off!" Ethan screamed. "Mom, call him off!" Diana grabbed a heavy candlestick from the table. "Control your dog, Marcus, or you'll what?" Marcus's voice stopped her cold. He hadn't moved. He hadn't blinked. He stood perfectly still, and something in his eyes made Diana take a step back. I spent 14 months tracking men who thought they were untouchable. Men who killed endangered animals for profit. Men who thought the law couldn't reach them. I found every single one. And now I'm standing in my own home looking at my starving daughter and you're threatening my dog. He took a step toward her. "Shadow, hold." The dog didn't move from Ethan, but his snarl quieted to a low rumble. "Lily," Marcus said, not taking his eyes off Diana. "Baby, I need you to do something for me. Can you do something for Daddy?" "Yes, Daddy." Her voice was still a whisper. "I need you to go upstairs to your room. Close the door. Don't come out until I come get you. Can you do that? Shadow, too. Shadow stays with me. But I promise you, baby, no one is ever going to hurt you again. Daddy promises. Do you believe me?" Silence. Then small and fragile, "I believe you." He heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard her bedroom door close, heard the click of the lock she must have learned to use. Then it was just Marcus, Diana, Ethan, under Shadow's guard, and the truth that hung in the air like smoke. "You're going to prison," Marcus said. Diana laughed. It was a cold sound. "For what?" "Disciplining a difficult child." "Good luck proving anything. I have photos of her smiling. I have letters in her handwriting. Every teacher at her school will tell you she's just shy, a little quiet, maybe a little thin, but children are picky eaters. Her school, of course. I'm not a monster. I sent her to school." "Did she eat there?" Diana's smile faltered. "I asked you a question. Did she eat there? I packed her lunch." "What was in it?" Silence. "What was in it?" "Crackers." Diana screamed. "A few crackers enough to keep up appearances. She didn't deserve more." Marcus closed his eyes. 14 months. A few crackers a day. Maybe some crumbs off the floor when Diana wasn't watching. His 5-year-old daughter had been slowly starving to death while he slept in a truck, believing everything was fine. Why? The word came out, broken. Why would you do this? She's a child. She never did anything to you. Why? Diana's face hardened into something Marcus had never seen before. The pretty mask was gone. Only ugliness remained. Because she's not mine? Because she looks just like Sarah? Because every time I see her face, I see the woman you loved more than you'll ever love me. Because when you look at her, you don't see me at all. So you tried to kill her. I tried to make her invisible. Diana's voice was bitter. The way I'm invisible to you. Behind her, Marcus heard a noise. A small noise. He glanced at the stairs. Lily hadn't gone to her room. She was crouched at the top of the stairs, watching through the railing. Her eyes were wide. She had heard everything. She had heard that Diana starved her because she looked like her mother. Shadow heard it too. The dog's head turned toward the stairs, toward the child. And then Shadow did something that broke Marcus's heart. The dog left his post over Ethan. He abandoned the teenager on the floor and walked slowly, deliberately to the bottom of the stairs. He looked up at Lily. He whined softly. Then he climbed the stairs one step at a time and laid down beside her. The dog chose the child over the revenge. The dog chose love over anger. Marcus watched his service animal press himself against his daughter, watched Lily bury her face in black fur, watched her tiny shoulders shake with silent sobs. And he made a decision. He pulled out his phone. "What are you doing?" Diana's voice was sharp. "Calling 911. You can't prove anything." "I don't have to." Marcus dialed. "She does." He walked toward the stairs, toward his daughter, toward the dog, who had been the only creature protecting her for 14 months. "Emergency services, what's your emergency?" "My name is Marcus Cole. I'm a conservation officer with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency. I need police and an ambulance at 47 Maple Street. I've just discovered evidence of severe child abuse and neglect. The victim is my 5-year-old daughter. The perpetrator is my wife. Send everyone." "Sir, is the child safe?" Marcus reached the top of the stairs. He knelt down beside Lily and Shadow. The dog looked at him with amber eyes full of exhaustion and relief. The child looked at him with blue eyes full of fear and fragile hope. She is now. Diana was screaming something downstairs. Ethan was on his feet trying to run, but Marcus wasn't listening anymore. He gathered his daughter into his arms. She weighed nothing. She weighed less than the stuffed unicorn he had dropped by the door. Her bones pressed against him like accusations. "Daddy," she whispered into his neck, "are you going to leave again?" The question shattered him. "No, baby. Never. Daddy's never leaving you again." "Promise. I promise." "Shadow stayed," she said. "Shadow never left, even when they hurt me, even when they didn't feed me. Shadow stayed." Marcus looked at the dog, at the loyal animal who had done what he couldn't do, who had protected what he had failed to protect. "I know, baby. Shadow's a good boy." "The best boy." Lily's voice was getting weaker. "He shared his food with me. When nobody was watching, he brought me pieces of his kibble, one at a time, so I wouldn't be so hungry." Marcus's tears fell into her hair. A dog. A dog had kept his daughter alive, while he was hundreds of miles away, trusting the wrong person, believing the perfect lie. A German shepherd had been smuggling dog food to a starving child, one kibble at a time. "Shadow." Marcus said, his voice thick. Good boy. The best boy. Shadow's tail wagged once, twice. Then he laid his heavy head on Lily's lap and let out a long, exhausted sigh. The sirens were coming. The nightmare was ending. But Marcus knew the truth. It was also just beginning. Because healing from 14 months of hell wouldn't happen overnight. Because his daughter had learned that the people who were supposed to protect her could hurt her instead. Because the road back to normal was going to be long and dark and full of setbacks. But they would walk it together. He held his daughter tighter. Shadow pressed closer. And in the distance, the sirens grew louder, bringing help, bringing justice, bringing the first fragile promise of a new beginning. "I've got you, Lily," Marcus whispered. "Daddy's got you." Downstairs, Diana was still screaming, but her voice was getting smaller, weaker, less important. The only voice that mattered was the tiny one pressed against his chest. "I knew you'd come, Daddy. Shadow told me. Every night. He told me you were coming." "How did he tell you?" "He slept outside my closet door, every night. And when I cried, he scratched at the door, like he was trying to get in. Like he was saying, 'Don't worry, your daddy's coming. Just hold on a little longer.'" Marcus couldn't speak. He just held her. Held her while the sirens arrived. Held her while the police pounded on the door. Held her while Diana was dragged away screaming about her rights, about her reputation, about how everything was the child's fault. He held her until the paramedics gently took her from his arms to check her vital signs. And even then, Shadow stayed. The dog stayed by her side as they put her on a stretcher. He stayed as they loaded her into the ambulance. He stayed as Marcus climbed in beside her, refusing to leave her sight. "Sir, the dog can't," the paramedic started. "He's a service animal," Marcus said. "And more importantly, he's the only reason she's still alive. He's staying." The paramedic looked at Shadow, looked at Lily, whose tiny hand was clutching the dog's fur, looked at Marcus, whose eyes dared him to argue. "Fine, but keep him calm." Shadow was already calm. He was lying beside Lily's stretcher, his head resting on his paws, his eyes never leaving her face. Guarding, protecting, loving. The way he had been doing for 14 months, while the world failed her. The ambulance doors closed. The siren wailed, and as they pulled away from the house on Maple Street, Marcus made a silent promise. To Lily, to Shadow, to the memory of Sarah. Never again. No one would ever hurt his daughter again. And God help anyone who tried. The ambulance screamed through the night, its sirens cutting through the silence of Willow Creek like a knife through flesh. Marcus sat on the narrow bench beside Lily's stretcher, his hand wrapped around her tiny fingers. Shadow lay pressed against the stretcher's base, his amber eyes fixed on the child's face, refusing to look away even for a second. "Daddy, I'm here, baby. I'm right here." "Am I going to the hospital?" "Yes, sweetheart. The doctors need to make sure you're okay." Lily's grip tightened on his fingers. "Will they give me food?" The question hit Marcus like a bullet to the chest. His daughter's first concern wasn't the needles, wasn't the strangers, wasn't the scary machines. It was food. After 14 months of starvation, her brain had rewired itself around one single, desperate need. "Yes, baby. They'll give you all the food you want. Even ice cream." Marcus couldn't stop the tears. He didn't try. "Even ice cream." The paramedic, a woman in her 30s with kind eyes and steady hands, was checking Lily's vitals. She had been silent since they loaded the stretcher, but Marcus could see the tension in her jaw, the anger she was trying to hide behind professionalism. "Her blood pressure is low," the paramedic said quietly, not wanting Lily to hear. "Pulse is weak, She's severely dehydrated and malnourished. We need to get fluids in her immediately, but we have to be careful. Refeeding syndrome is a real risk with cases this severe. Refeeding syndrome. When someone has been starved for a long time, giving them too much food too fast can actually kill them. Her body has adapted to running on almost nothing. We have to bring her back slowly. Marcus closed his eyes. Even now, even rescued his daughter was in danger. How bad is it? The paramedic hesitated. I've been doing this for 11 years. I've seen a lot of bad things. She paused, her voice cracking slightly. This is one of the worst. Shadow lifted his head and whined. The dog could sense the tension, could feel the fear radiating off Marcus like heat from a fire. It's okay, boy, Marcus whispered. We're going to fix this. But he wasn't sure he believed his own words. The ambulance pulled into the emergency bay of Willow Creek General Hospital. The doors flew open and a team of nurses and doctors surrounded the stretcher. Marcus tried to follow, but a hand stopped him. Sir, you need to wait here. That's my daughter. I understand, but I'm not leaving her. Marcus's voice was steel. I left her once, for 14 months. I'm never leaving her again. The doctor, a gray-haired man with tired eyes, looked at Marcus, looked at the determination etched into every line of his face, looked at the dog pressed against his leg. Fine, but stay out of the way. They rushed Lily into a trauma bay. Marcus followed Shadow at his heels. The fluorescent lights were harsh, unforgiving, illuminating every terrible detail of what had been done to his child. The nurses cut away Lily's dress. Marcus had to turn away. The yellow fabric with sunflowers, Sarah's gift, fell to the floor in pieces, revealing a map of suffering. Bruises in various stages of healing. Ribs that looked like a xylophone. Hip bones jutting out like handles. And scars. Small circular scars on her arms and legs that Marcus didn't understand. What are those? He asked, pointing at the scars. The nurse's face went pale. Cigarette burns. Marcus's vision went white. Cigarette burns. Someone had put out cigarettes on his 5-year-old daughter's skin. Sir, are you okay? He wasn't okay. He would never be okay again. Who? His voice was barely human. Who did that to her? The nurse looked at him with eyes full of pity and rage. We'll need to ask her, when she's stable. Shadow was growling, a low, continuous rumble that filled the trauma bay. The dog had positioned himself in the corner, watching everything. His hackles raised, his teeth bared. Can someone get the dog out of here? A nurse asked. No. Marcus's response was immediate. He stays. He's the only thing keeping her calm. As if to prove his point, Lily's small voice rose above the chaos. Shadow, where are you? The dog pushed past the nurses, past the doctors, and jumped up with his front paws on the edge of the bed. He licked Lily's face once, twice, and then settled down beside her, his head resting on her arm. Lily's heart rate monitor, which had been beeping frantically, began to slow. I'll be damned, the gray-haired doctor muttered. Keep the dog. They worked on Lily for 2 hours. IV fluids, blood tests, X-rays, photographs for evidence. Each new discovery was another punch to Marcus's gut. 3 healed fractures. 2 in her ribs, 1 in her left arm. Signs of repeated trauma to her scalp from hair pulling, dental decay from malnutrition and lack of care. Developmental delays consistent with prolonged isolation. And through it all, Lily didn't cry. She didn't scream. She lay perfectly still, perfectly silent, her hand buried in Shadow's fur, her eyes fixed on the ceiling. It was the silence that terrified Marcus most. She's learned to be invisible, a child psychologist explained, arriving sometime around midnight. It's a survival mechanism. Children who are abused often learn that making noise drawing attention leads to punishment, so they become ghosts. They stop crying because crying doesn't help. They stop fighting because fighting makes it worse. How do I fix it? The psychologist, a woman named Dr. Sarah Chen, looked at him with gentle honesty. You don't fix it. You heal it. And healing takes time, months, years, maybe a lifetime. But the fact that you came back, that you found out that you're here now, that's the first step. I should have known, Marcus said, his voice breaking. I should have seen the signs. The letters didn't sound like her. The photos felt wrong. I knew something was off, but I didn't. Stop. Dr. Chen's voice was firm. You were deceived by someone who was very good at deception. Your wife, ex-wife, as of tonight. Your ex-wife was a skilled manipulator. She controlled the information you received. She created a false reality. You believed what any loving father would believe, that the people caring for his child were trustworthy. But the dog knew. Marcus looked at Shadow, still pressed against Lily's side. He knew the moment we got close to the house. Why couldn't I see what he could see? Dogs don't rationalize. They don't explain away bad feelings because they want to believe everything is okay. They trust their instincts completely. Dr. Chen paused. Humans are different. We want to believe the best about the people we love. It's both our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. A knock at the door interrupted them. A police officer stepped in, Sheriff Jenny Wade, an old friend of Marcus's from his early days in conservation. Marcus, Jenny's face was grim. We need to talk. How is she? Marcus asked immediately. Diana, is she talking? She's talking plenty, mostly about how this is all a misunderstanding, how Lily is a difficult child, how you're an absent father who has no right to judge her. And Ethan, Jenny's expression darkened. Ethan is the one we need to discuss. Can we step outside? Marcus looked at Lily. She was asleep now, finally, her small body connected to machines and tubes, Shadow's warmth keeping her anchored to the world. I'll only be a minute, baby, he whispered, kissing her forehead. He followed Jenny into the hallway. The hospital was quiet at this hour, the fluorescent lights humming softly overhead. What about Ethan? Marcus demanded. Jenny pulled out a notepad. We searched the house, found some things. She hesitated. Marcus, I need you to stay calm. Just tell me. We found a journal in Ethan's room. Detailed entries about what he called the project. The project. Jenny's jaw tightened. He documented everything. Every time Lily was locked in the closet, every meal she was denied, every punishment. He wrote it down like he was conducting an experiment. He even rated her reactions on a scale of 1 to 10. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet. He's 14 years old. I know. He tortured my daughter like she was a lab rat, and he's 14 years old. I know, Marcus. Where is he now? Juvenile detention. He'll be evaluated by psychiatric professionals. Given his age and the nature of the crimes, we're looking at a long-term facility, not prison. But he won't be walking free anytime soon. Marcus leaned against the wall. His legs felt weak. His chest felt hollow. There's more, Jenny said quietly. More. The journal mentioned someone else. Someone who visited the house when you were gone. Someone Ethan called Uncle Frank. The name meant nothing to Marcus. Who is Uncle Frank? We're trying to find out. Diana won't talk. Ethan clammed up the moment we mentioned the name. But based on the journal entries... Jenny swallowed hard. Marcus, I think there might have been a third abuser. The world stopped spinning. A third abuser. Someone else had been hurting his daughter. Find him. Marcus's voice was ice. Find him and bring him to me. Marcus, I know I can't do anything. I know I have to let the law handle it." He looked at Jenny with eyes that burned. "But find him. Find him before I do." Jenny nodded slowly. "We're working on it. I've got my best people on it." She put a hand on his shoulder. "Go back to your daughter. She needs you more than she needs vengeance right now." Marcus walked back into Lily's room. She was still asleep, but her face was twisted in a frown, her small hands clutching Shadow's fur like he was a lifeline. He sat down in the chair beside her bed and took her hand. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here." Lily stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, confused and frightened. "Daddy, I'm here. I had a bad dream." "What was the dream about?" Lily's lower lip trembled. "The closet, the dark, the man who smelled like smoke." Marcus went cold. The man who smelled like smoke. He came sometimes. When Diana said I was extra bad, he would take pictures. Pictures. Take pictures. "Lily." Marcus fought to keep his voice steady. "What kind of pictures?" "I don't know. Diana made me wear different dresses, stand in different places. The man had a big camera." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't like him, Daddy. He looked at me funny. Shadow didn't like him either. Shadow bit him once, and then Diana locked Shadow in the garage for 3 days. Marcus couldn't breathe. Someone had been taking pictures of his daughter. Someone with a camera. Someone who looked at her in ways that made even a child uncomfortable. "Lily, do you know the man's name?" "Diana called him Frank. Ethan called him Uncle Frank. But he wasn't my uncle." Uncle Frank. The same name from Ethan's journal. Marcus's hands were shaking. His vision was blurring. A rage unlike anything he had ever felt was building in his chest, pressing against his ribs, demanding release. But he couldn't let it out. Not here. Not now. Not in front of his daughter. "Lily, you're so brave. Thank you for telling me." "Did I do something wrong?" "No, baby. You did everything right. You survived, you held on. And now Daddy's going to make sure no one ever hurts you again." And Shadow. Marcus looked at the dog, at the loyal animal who had protected his daughter when he couldn't, who had shared his food, who had slept outside her closet door every night, scratching, whining, telling her to hold on. Shadow too. Shadow's going to stay with us forever. The dog's tail wagged once, as if he understood. Marcus stayed awake all night. He held Lily's hand while she slept. He watched Shadow guard her with unwavering vigilance. He thought about Diana in her jail cell, about Ethan in juvenile detention, about the mysterious Uncle Frank who was still out there somewhere. And he made a promise to himself. He would find Uncle Frank. He would find out exactly what had been done to his daughter. And then, law or no law, he would make sure it never happened to any child again. The sun rose over Willow Creek General Hospital, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Lily woke slowly, blinking against the light. "Daddy, good morning, baby. I'm hungry." Those 2 words, simple, ordinary, the words every parent hears 1,000 times, made Marcus's heart swell with hope. She was hungry. She was asking for food. She was trusting him to provide it. "Let's get you some breakfast," he said, pressing the call button for the nurse. A few minutes later, a tray arrived. Scrambled eggs, toast, apple juice, nothing fancy but carefully portioned to avoid overwhelming her damaged system. Lily stared at the food like it was a miracle. "All of this is for me, all of it. I don't have to share. No, baby, it's all yours." Lily picked up a piece of toast with trembling hands. She took a small bite, chewed slowly, swallowed, and then she started to cry. Not sad tears, not scared tears, something else entirely. Relief. Overwhelming, soul-deep relief. "It's okay," Marcus whispered, pulling her into his arms. "It's okay to cry. You're safe now." Shadow whined and nuzzled closer, adding his warmth to the embrace. "Daddy," Lily sobbed into his chest. "I missed you so much. Every night I asked God to bring you home. Every night Shadow slept by my door. Every night I told myself, just one more day. Daddy's coming. Just one more day." Marcus held her tighter, his own tears falling freely. One more day. For 14 months, his 5-year-old daughter had survived on nothing but faith and dog kibble, telling herself to hold on for just one more day. "I'm here now," he said. "I'm here, and I'm never leaving again." "Promise. I promise. Cross your heart. Cross my heart." Lily pulled back and looked at him with those big blue eyes so much like Sarah's. Shadow crossed his heart too. Every night, he would put his paw on my chest and look at me, like he was saying, "I promise too." Marcus looked at the dog, at the intelligent amber eyes that had seen everything, that had watched and waited and never given up. "Shadow's the best boy in the whole world," Marcus said. "The best boy." Lily agreed. And for the first time since he had walked through that front door, something that felt like hope began to bloom in Marcus's chest. It was small, fragile, easily crushed, but it was there, and he would protect it with everything he had, just like Shadow had protected Lily, just like he should have been protecting her all along. The door opened, and Dr. Chen walked in with Sheriff Jenny Wade. "Marcus," Jenny said, her face tight. "We found something you need to see." Marcus looked at Lily, then back at Jenny. "Can it wait?" "No." Jenny's voice was hard. "It can't." She held up a tablet. On the screen was a photograph. A man in his 50s with gray hair and cold eyes. "This is Frank Morrison, Diana's brother." Diana's brother. "We found his computer," Jenny continued. "Marcus, the files—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Marcus looked at the photograph of the man who had taken pictures of his daughter, the man who had visited when he was gone, the man who smelled like smoke. "Where is he?" Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. "We don't know. He disappeared 3 days ago, right before you came home." 3 days ago. Almost like he knew Marcus was coming. Almost like someone had warned him. Marcus looked at Shadow. The dog was staring at the tablet at the photograph of Frank Morrison, and a growl was building in his chest. Shadow remembered that face. Shadow remembered what that man had done. And Marcus knew with absolute certainty that before this was over, Shadow would find him. They would find him together. And God help Frank Morrison when they did. Frank Morrison's photograph burned into Marcus's memory like a brand. Gray hair, cold eyes, the face of a predator hiding behind the mask of family. "How long has he been in Diana's life?" Marcus asked, his voice controlled, but dangerous. Jenny checked her notes. "He's her older brother. Moved to Tennessee 8 years ago. Officially, he runs a photography studio in downtown Nashville. Specializes in children's portraits." Children's portraits. The words made Marcus's stomach turn. "His computer," Marcus said. "What exactly did you find?" Jenny glanced at Lily, who was watching cartoons on the hospital TV, with Shadow curled beside her, then lowered her voice. "Thousands of images. We're still sorting through them. Some are legitimate. School photos, family sessions. But there's a hidden folder Encrypted. Our tech team cracked it last night. And Jenny's face went gray. Lily wasn't the only one. The room tilted. Marcus grabbed the edge of the chair to steady himself. How many? At least 12 children that we've identified so far. All girls, all between 5 and 8 years old, all connected to Diana in some way, church groups, her Sunday school class neighbors' kids. Diana had been feeding children to her brother for years, using her perfect smile and her church volunteer status as a hunting ground. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded. "I need to talk to Diana, now." "Marcus, that's not a good idea. She knows where Frank is. She warned him. That's why he disappeared 3 days before I came home. She tipped him off." Jenny hesitated. "Even if that's true, you can't interrogate a suspect. You're too close to this." "I'm not going to interrogate her." Marcus's eyes were ice. "I'm going to ask her one question, just one, and then I'm going to walk away." "What question? Why my daughter? Out of all the children she could have targeted, why did she choose to marry me? Why did she choose Lily?" Jenny studied him for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. 20 minutes. I'll be right outside the door. And Marcus, if you touch her, if you even raise your voice, I'm pulling you out." "Understood." Marcus looked at Lily. She was giggling at something on the TV, her small hand buried in Shadow's fur. For a moment, she looked almost normal, almost like the happy little girl he had left behind 14 months ago. "Shadow," Marcus said quietly. "Stay." The dog lifted his head, looked at Marcus, then at Lily, a question in his amber eyes. "Protect her boy. I'll be back soon." Shadow settled his head back down, but his eyes stayed open. Watching. Guarding. Always guarding. Marcus followed Jenny through the hospital corridors, into an elevator down to the basement level, where the police had set up a temporary holding area. Diana was being kept here until her transfer to county jail, separated from the general population for her own safety. Word had gotten out about what she had done. Even criminals had standards when it came to children. They stopped outside a heavy metal door. Jenny put her hand on Marcus's arm. "Last chance to change your mind." "Open it." The door swung open. Diana sat at a metal table, her wrists cuffed to a ring in the center. Her perfect hair was messed. Her makeup was smeared. Her cream blouse was wrinkled and stained. But her eyes were the same as always. Cold. Calculating. Empty. "Marcus." Diana smiled when she saw him. "Finally. Please tell them this is all a misunderstanding. Lily exaggerates. She's always been dramatic. You know how children are." Marcus sat down across from her. He said nothing. "The bruises were from playing," Diana continued, her voice smooth. "She falls all the time. Clumsy little thing. And the weight loss, she's a picky eater. I tried everything, but she just wouldn't eat. I was worried too, actually. I was going to take her to a doctor." Marcus still said nothing. Diana's smile flickered. "Say something." "Why? Why what? Why me? Why Lily? Out of everyone you could have targeted, why did you choose us?" Diana's mask slipped for just a second. Something dark and satisfied flashed in her eyes before she covered it up. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do. You married me for a reason. You targeted my daughter for a reason, and you're going to tell me what that reason was." Diana leaned back in her chair, studying him like he was an insect under a microscope. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she laughed. It was a cold, hollow sound that made Marcus's skin crawl. "You really want to know?" "Yes." "Fine." Diana's smile turned cruel. "Your wife, Sarah. She was one of Frank's favorites." The world stopped. "What? Oh, she never knew. She was too young to remember." But Frank photographed her when she was 6 years old, at a church carnival. She was wearing a little blue dress with white flowers. He kept that photo for 20 years. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what he was hearing. When Sarah died, Diana continued enjoying every word. Frank was devastated. He'd been watching her from a distance for years. Never touched her. He preferred to watch, to photograph. But when she had Lily, Diana's eyes glittered. Lily looked exactly like her mother at that age. Same blonde hair, same blue eyes, same innocent little face. You're lying. M.I. Frank approached me with a proposal. He would pay me handsomely to get close to you, to marry you, to gain access to Lily. All I had to do was keep her available for his visits. Nothing physical at first. Just photographs. Just observation. You sold my daughter to a predator. I sold her to my brother. Diana shrugged. Family helps family. And you made it so easy, Marcus. Running off to play hero in the woods, leaving your precious baby girl with a virtual stranger. Did you ever really look at me? Did you ever ask yourself why a beautiful woman with no financial needs would want to marry a widower with a small child and a dangerous job? Marcus's hands were shaking. His vision was tunneling. Where is he? Who? Frank. Where is he hiding? Diana smiled. I don't know. You warned him. You told him I was coming home early. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Either way, you'll never find him. Frank is very good at disappearing. He's had to be with his hobbies. Marcus stood up so fast his chair flew backward. He slammed his palms on the table, his face inches from Diana's. I will find him, and when I do, you'll what, kill him? Diana laughed again. You're a law enforcement officer, Marcus. You'll arrest him and he'll hire a good lawyer and he'll get a few years in a minimum security facility where he can trade stories with other enthusiasts. That's how the system works. You should know that better than anyone. The system isn't the only option. Diana's smile faltered for the first time. What does that mean? Marcus leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. It means I spent 14 months tracking men who thought they were untouchable. Men who hid in places the law couldn't reach. I found every single one of them. Not because I had badges or warrants or backup, because I had patience and rage and a dog who can track a scent through a hurricane. He straightened up. Frank can run, he can hide, he can disappear to the ends of the earth, but Shadow smelled him on Lily's skin. Shadow remembers, and dogs don't forget. For the first time since Marcus had walked through the door, Diana looked afraid. You can't. Watch me. Marcus turned and walked out. Jenny was waiting in the hallway, her face concerned. Did you get what you needed? More than I needed. Marcus's voice was hollow. Sarah, my first wife. Frank targeted her when she was a child. That's why Diana married me. That's why she chose Lily. This was never random. It was a 20-year plan. Jenny's face went pale. Jesus Christ. I need to talk to your tech team. If Frank has been doing this for 20 years, there's a pattern. A trail. Something that will tell us where he's gone. Marcus, you're not a detective. You're a victim's family member. I can't let you... Jenny. Marcus turned to face her. That man photographed my wife when she was a child. He groomed my current wife to give him access to my daughter. He has been in my house near my baby taking pictures of her for over a year. You can either help me find him, or you can stay out of my way. But you cannot stop me. Jenny stared at him for a long moment. Then she sighed. The tech team is on the 3rd floor. I'll take you up. They walked in silence through the hospital corridors. When they reached the elevator, Jenny spoke again. That thing you said to Diana, about shadow tracking Frank. Were you serious? Marcus pressed the button for the 3rd floor. Shadow is trained to track poachers through wilderness. He can follow a scent trail that's 3 days old across rough terrain in bad weather. If I can get him something with Frank's scent on it, he'll find him. That's not exactly legal procedure. I don't care about legal procedure anymore. Marcus met her eyes. I care about making sure Frank Morrison never touches another child. If that means bending rules, I'll bend them. If that means breaking them, I'll break them. And if that means spending the rest of my life in prison, I'll do that too. What about Lily? The question stopped Marcus cold. What about her? If you go vigilante and end up in prison, what happens to her? She just got her father back. She needs you. Not revenge, you. Marcus closed his eyes. The rage inside him was a living thing demanding release. But Jenny was right. Lily needed him. She needed him present, not behind bars. Fine, he said quietly. We do this by the book. But the book better work fast, because every hour that man is free is another hour he could be hurting someone else's daughter. The elevator doors opened. Jenny led him down a corridor to a room filled with computers and serious-looking people in FBI jackets. FBI? Marcus asked. This case crossed state lines the moment we found images from other jurisdictions on Frank's computer. It's federal now. A tall woman with sharp features and graying hair approached them. Her badge read, Special Agent Catherine Wells. Mr. Cole, I'm the lead agent on this case. I understand you have information that might help us locate Frank Morrison. I have a dog that can track him. Agent Wells raised an eyebrow. We have tracking technology, satellites, facial recognition. And Frank has been evading that technology for 20 years. My dog doesn't need satellites. He needs a scent. The agent studied him with calculating eyes. What kind of scent article do you have? I don't have one yet. But Diana kept something of Frank's at the house. I'm sure of it. A jacket, a bag, something. The house is a crime scene. We've already collected evidence. Then let me look at what you collected. Let Shadow smell it. If Frank touched it, Shadow will know. Agent Wells considered this. Then she turned to one of her subordinates. Bring up the evidence catalog from the Morrison residence. A screen flickered to life, showing photographs of items seized from the house. Clothing, documents, electronics. And then Marcus saw it. That. He pointed at a leather messenger bag. That wasn't mine. That wasn't Diana's. I've never seen it before. It was found in the master bedroom closet, hidden behind a panel in the wall. That's Frank's, I'm sure of it. He must have left it there during one of his visits. Agent Wells nodded slowly. It's at our evidence facility downtown. We could arrange for your dog to examine it. Now. We do it now. Mr. Cole, every minute we wait is a minute Frank uses to get further away. He's had 3 days head start. 3 days to cross borders, change identities, disappear. We need to move now. Agent Wells looked at Jenny, then back at Marcus. Fine. But your dog works under our supervision, and if this leads anywhere, you stay behind the line. Understood. Understood. Marcus was already moving toward the door when his phone buzzed. A text from the hospital room. It was from the nurse watching Lily. Your daughter is asking for you. She says Shadow is acting strange, won't stop pacing, won't stop whining. Something is wrong. Marcus's blood ran cold. He ran. He ran through corridors and down staircases and across the hospital until he burst through Lily's door, gasping for breath. Shadow was standing at the window, his hackles raised a low growl, rumbling in his chest. Lily was pressed against the headboard of her bed, her eyes wide with fear. Daddy! Marcus crossed the room in 3 strides, gathering Lily into his arms. What happened? What's wrong? Shadow saw something outside. He got all scary, like the night you came home. Marcus looked at the dog. Shadow was still staring out the window, every muscle in his body tense. "Shadow, what is it?" The dog turned his head and met Marcus's eyes. And in that moment, Marcus understood. Shadow hadn't seen something. Shadow had smelled something. Or someone. Marcus moved to the window. 3 stories below the hospital parking lot was ordinary. Cars, people, nothing unusual. But wait. There. At the edge of the lot, near a white van, a figure stood watching the hospital. Gray hair, average build, hands in his pockets. As Marcus watched, the figure looked up, directly at Lily's window, and smiled. Then he got into the van and drove away. Marcus grabbed his phone and called Jenny. "He's here. Frank is here. He was watching the hospital. White van heading east on Memorial Drive. Move." He hung up before she could respond. Lily was crying. "Daddy, who was that man?" Marcus held her tighter, his mind racing. Frank had been here, watching, waiting. He knew exactly where Lily was. This wasn't over. It wasn't even close to over. Shadow pressed against Marcus's leg, his growl deepening. The dog was ready. Ready to protect. Ready to hunt. And Marcus realized with cold certainty that the book wasn't going to be fast enough. Frank Morrison had come to the hospital. He had stood in the parking lot and smiled up at Lily's window. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was taunting them. He was showing them that despite all their evidence, all their technology, all their FBI agents, he could still get close. He could still watch. He could still smile. "I'm going to get him, Lily," Marcus whispered into his daughter's hair. "I promise you, I'm going to find him, and he's never going to hurt anyone ever again." "Shadow will help," Lily said softly. "Shadow always helps." Marcus looked at his dog, at the loyal animal who had kept his daughter alive through 14 months of hell, who had shared his food, who had guarded her door, who had bitten Frank Morrison and been punished for it. Shadow knew Frank's scent better than anyone. Shadow had a score to settle. And Marcus was going to let him. "Yeah, baby," Marcus said, his voice hardening into steel. "Shadow's going to help. And when Shadow finds him..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Shadow's growl said it all. The white van vanished before Jenny's team could intercept it. Traffic cameras caught glimpses of it heading east. Then nothing. Frank Morrison had disappeared again, like smoke through fingers. But this time, he had made a mistake. He had shown his face. And Shadow had caught his scent through the hospital window 3 stories up, carried on the autumn wind. "He's playing with us," Agent Wells said, her voice tight with frustration. "He wants us to know he's close. He's enjoying this." Marcus stood in the FBI command center, watching agents track dead-end leads on glowing screens. Lily was safe now, moved to a secure location with armed guards. But safe wasn't enough. Safe was temporary. As long as Frank Morrison breathed free air, Lily would never truly be safe. "The messenger bag," Marcus said. "You still have it?" Agent Wells nodded. "Evidence locker. Why? Because we're done playing his game. Shadow is going to track him, and you're going to follow." Mr. Cole, tracking dogs are useful, but this isn't the wilderness. This is a city. Cars, buses, thousands of crossing scents. Shadow tracked a poacher through 3 counties in pouring rain. He found the man hiding in a drainage pipe 50 miles from where we started. I trained him myself. He doesn't lose a scent. Ever. Wells studied him for a long moment. Then she turned to her team. "Get the bag. We're going to the parking lot where Morrison was spotted." 20 minutes later, Marcus stood in the hospital parking lot with Shadow at his side. An agent approached, carrying the leather messenger bag in a sealed evidence container. "Open it," Marcus commanded. The agent looked at Wells, who nodded. The seal broke. The bag emerged. Shadow's reaction was immediate. The dog lunged forward, his nose pressing against the leather. A violent sneeze cleared his nostrils. Then another. Then his head came up, ears rotating like satellite dishes, and a sound emerged from his throat that Marcus had never heard before. Not a growl, not a whine. A promise. "He's got it," Marcus said quietly. "He knows exactly who this belongs to." Shadow turned in a slow circle, testing the air. His body stiffened. His head swung toward the eastern edge of the parking lot, toward the spot where Frank had stood watching Lily's window. Then he started walking. Not running. Walking. Deliberate. Focused. His nose low to the ground, then lifting to catch air currents, then back down. He was reading the invisible story Frank had left behind, following a trail only he could see. "Where's he going?" Wells asked, matching Marcus's pace. "Wherever Frank went. Stay behind us. Don't distract him." They moved through the parking lot, past rows of cars, toward the street. Shadow paused at the curb, circling twice, then continued east along the sidewalk. "He got out of the van here," Marcus interpreted. "Walked this way on foot." "Why would he walk?" "He had a vehicle." "Because he wanted to get close, wanted to look up at her window from the right angle, wanted to savor it." The thought made Marcus's stomach turn, but he pushed the rage down. Later. He could feel later. Right now he needed to focus. Shadow led them 3 blocks east, then turned sharply into an alley. The scent trail was strong here. Frank had spent time in this spot. Waiting. Watching. Maybe even photographing from a distance. "He had a sight line to the hospital from here," Wells observed, looking back. "Clear view of the 3rd floor." Shadow wasn't interested in the view. He was pushing forward deeper into the alley toward a metal door set into a brick wall. "What's this building?" Marcus asked. Wells checked her phone. "Old textile warehouse? Supposed to be abandoned." She paused. "Listed owner is a shell company. Let me run it." Shadow scratched at the metal door, whining urgently. "He's in there," Marcus said. "Frank is in there right now." "We don't know that. The scent could be old. Shadow knows the difference between old scent and fresh scent. He's telling us Frank is here. Now." Wells was already calling for backup. "This is Agent Wells. I need tactical teams at the old Henderson Textile Building, East Alley entrance. Possible location of suspect Frank Morrison. Consider armed and dangerous." "How long?" Marcus demanded. 15 minutes for full tactical. Frank could be gone in 15 seconds if he has another exit. Then we wait and watch. We don't go in without backup." Shadow was scratching harder at the door now, his whines turning to sharp barks. He could smell Frank on the other side. He could probably hear him too. And he wanted in. Marcus's hand moved to the door handle. "Cole, don't you dare!" The handle turned. Unlocked. Marcus looked at Wells. "He wanted us to find him. This is another game. All the more reason to wait for tactical. All the more reason to move now before he finishes whatever he's planning." Marcus pushed the door open. Shadow exploded through the gap before anyone could stop him. "Shadow, no!" But the dog was already gone, vanishing into the darkness of the warehouse. His barking echoed off the walls, growing more frantic, more aggressive. Marcus didn't hesitate. He charged in after his dog. "Cole, damn it!" He heard Wells shouting orders behind him, heard agents scrambling to follow, but he didn't slow down. Shadow's barking was coming from somewhere above. Stairs. He needed to find stairs. His eyes adjusted to the dim light. The warehouse was gutted empty except for old machinery and abandoned pallets. Emergency exit signs glowed red in the distance. And there, a metal staircase leading up. Marcus ran. His boots clanged against the stairs. Shadow's barking was getting closer. Second floor, third floor, fourth floor. Then the barking stopped. Silence. Marcus froze on the fourth floor landing, his heart hammering. Shadow. Nothing. He pushed through a door marked 4 and found himself in a vast, open space. Old windows let in fading daylight. Dust motes floated in the air. And in the center of the room, Shadow stood perfectly still. The dog's hackles were raised. His teeth were bared. His entire body was trembling with restrained aggression. But he wasn't moving, because Frank Morrison stood behind him, holding a knife to the dog's throat. "Hello, Marcus." Frank's voice was soft, friendly, the voice of a man who photographed children at church carnivals. "I was wondering how long it would take you to find me." Marcus stopped breathing. "Let him go." "The dog. He's magnificent. I can see why Lily loves him so much. Did you know she used to talk to him late at night when she thought no one was listening? She would tell him all her secrets, all her fears, all her hopes that Daddy would come home." "Let him go." Frank smiled. It was the same smile Marcus had seen from the parking lot, the smile of a man who enjoyed having power over the powerless. "I've been watching your family for a very long time, Marcus. Before you even knew Diana existed. Before you married Sarah. I was there at your wedding, did you know that, in the back row? I took photos of Sarah in her dress. She looked just like she did when she was 6 years old. Perfect. Innocent. Pure." Marcus's fists clenched. Every instinct screamed at him to attack, to tear this monster apart with his bare hands. But Frank had a knife at Shadow's throat. One wrong move, and the dog would die. "What do you want? What do I want?" Frank seemed to consider the question. "I want what I've always wanted, to capture beauty, to preserve innocence, to hold on to moments before they're corrupted by time and experience." "You're a predator. You destroy innocence." "I preserve it. In my photographs, those children stay young forever. They never grow old. They never become bitter or broken or boring. They remain perfect." "You're insane." "I'm an artist." Frank's smile faded. "And you've ruined everything. Lily was supposed to be my masterpiece, Sarah's daughter, the next generation of beauty. I had plans for her, Marcus, such beautiful plans." Shadow growled, and Frank pressed the knife harder. "Keep your dog still or I'll open his throat and let you watch him bleed out. That would be sad, wouldn't it? After everything he did for Lily, sharing his food, guarding her door, he deserves better than to die on a dirty warehouse floor." "Then let him go and take me instead." Frank laughed. You're not interesting, Marcus. You're just a man, a father, ordinary, forgettable. But Lily is special. And as long as I'm free, I'll always find my way back to her. You know that, don't you? You can lock Diana away. You can put me in prison. But eventually I'll get out. And I'll find her. I'll always find her. Marcus felt something inside him go cold. Not rage. Something worse. Certainty. Frank was right. The system would fail. It always failed. Men like Frank knew how to manipulate it. They got good lawyers and sympathetic judges and reduced sentences. They got out early for good behavior. And then they went right back to hunting children. The only way to truly protect Lily was to end Frank Morrison permanently. But Shadow was still in danger. What's your play here, Frank? You're cornered. FBI is surrounding this building. There's no escape. There's always an escape. Frank glanced toward a window. I have a rope. I have a car waiting 2 blocks away. I have 3 different identities ready to go. This isn't my first time disappearing, Marcus. But before I go, I wanted to see you one more time. I wanted you to know that you'll never win. I wanted you to feel what it's like to be helpless while someone you love is in danger." Shadow snarled, and Frank's knife drew a thin line of blood from the dog's neck. "No!" Marcus lunged forward, but Frank's voice stopped him. "One more step and I cut deep. Your choice." Marcus froze his eyes, fixed on the blood trickling down Shadow's black fur. "You know what I love about dogs," Frank continued conversationally. "They're loyal, unconditionally. No matter how badly they're treated, they keep coming back. Lily's the same way. No matter what Diana did to her, she kept hoping, kept waiting, kept believing her daddy would save her. And he did. Did he? You saved her from Diana. But can you save her from me? Can you save her from the nightmares she'll have for the rest of her life? Can you save her from the trust issues, the relationship problems, the constant fear that everyone who loves her will eventually hurt her?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "I can try." "You can fail," Frank shrugged. "That's what fathers do. They fail. Your father failed you, didn't he? That's why you became a conservation officer, running into the wilderness to save animals because you couldn't save the people who mattered. You don't know anything about me. I know everything about you. I've been studying your family for 20 years. I know Sarah had a birthmark on her left shoulder. I know Lily sleeps with a stuffed elephant named Peanut. I know you cry when you're alone, when you think no one is watching. I know you blame yourself for Sarah's death, even though it wasn't your fault." Marcus felt his composure cracking. Frank was in his head, twisting, manipulating. That was what predators did. They found your weaknesses and exploited them. But Marcus had a weapon Frank didn't know about. Faith. "Lily's going to be okay," Marcus said, his voice steady now. "Not because I can protect her from everything. Not because I'll never fail. But because she has something you'll never understand." "What's that? Love that doesn't give up. Even when she was locked in that closet, starving in the dark, she knew someone loved her. Shadow scratched at that door every night. I thought about her every day. She was never truly alone, Frank, and that's something you can never take from her." For the first time, Frank's smile faltered. Love doesn't protect anyone. Love is weakness. Love is why Shadow is standing there right now, even with a knife at his throat. He knows you're going to hurt him, but he won't run because Lily needs him. Because I need him. Because love makes you brave enough to face monsters. Shadow's eyes met Marcus's. The dog understood. Somehow across the space between them, through the fear and the blood and the darkness, Shadow understood. "Good boy," Marcus whispered. "Hold." Then he moved. Not forward. Sideways. He dove for an old industrial light fixture hanging from a chain. His hand closed around the chain and he pulled with all his strength. The fixture swung. Frank's eyes went to the movement instinctively, and in that split second of distraction, Shadow struck. The dog twisted violently, breaking Frank's grip on his collar. The knife sliced through empty air as Shadow lunged away, then spun and attacked. 85 pounds of muscle and fury hit Frank Morrison in the chest. The predator went down hard, the knife clattering away into the darkness. Shadow was on top of him, jaws clamped around his forearm, teeth sinking deep. Frank screamed. Marcus was there in seconds. He kicked the knife further away, then dropped his knee onto Frank's chest. "Call him off! Call him off!" "Shadow, hold!" The dog didn't release. His jaws stayed locked on Frank's arm, blood flowing freely now, but he stopped shaking. He held the predator in place like a trap. "Please, I'll tell you everything. The other children, their names, where the files are. Just call him off." Marcus leaned close to Frank's face, close enough to see the terror in his eyes. close enough to watch him realize that he wasn't the predator anymore. He was the prey. "You were right about one thing," Marcus said quietly. "The system might fail. You might get out someday. You might find your way back to Lily." "I won't, I swear I won't. But here's what you didn't count on." When Marcus nodded toward Shadow. "He'll never forget your scent. Wherever you go, whatever name you use, he'll know. And if you ever come near my daughter again, I won't call him off." Footsteps thundered on the stairs. FBI agents burst through the door, weapons drawn. "Freeze, everybody, freeze! Shadow release!" The dog released Frank's arm and stepped back, blood dripping from his muzzle. His tail wagged once, twice. Job done. Agent Wells approached, taking in the scene. Frank Morrison on the ground, bleeding and weeping. Marcus standing over him, calm as stone. Shadow sitting at his side, panting softly. "You okay, Cole?" "I'm okay. Shadow's hurt. Frank had a knife." "We'll get him to a vet." Wells looked down at Frank with undisguised disgust. "Frank Morrison, you're under arrest for child exploitation, child endangerment, and about 40 other charges we're still compiling. You have the right to remain silent." As agents swarmed around them, Marcus knelt beside Shadow. The cut on the dog's neck was shallow, already clotting. He was going to be fine. "Good boy," Marcus whispered, burying his face in Shadow's fur. "The best boy. You saved her. You saved both of us." Shadow licked his face once. Then he turned to watch the agents drag Frank Morrison away, his amber eyes tracking every movement until the predator was gone. It was over. Finally, truly over. But as Marcus held his dog in that dark warehouse surrounded by FBI agents and crime scene tape, he knew the hardest part was still to come. Healing. Rebuilding. Learning to trust again. Lily would need years of therapy. She would have nightmares. She would flinch at sudden movements and cry at unexpected moments. The scars Diana and Frank had left would never fully disappear. But she wouldn't face it alone. Marcus would be there. Every nightmare, every tear, every setback. And Shadow would be there too. The loyal dog who had kept her alive when no one else could. The hero who had never given up. The best boy. 8 months had passed since that night in the warehouse. 8 months since Frank Morrison was dragged away in handcuffs. 8 months since Marcus held his bleeding dog and promised that everything would be okay. Some promises take time to keep. Lily sat in Dr. Chen's office, her small legs dangling from the big leather chair. Shadow lay at her feet, his head resting on her sneakers. The scar on his neck had healed into a thin white line, hidden beneath his black fur. "How did school go this week?" Dr. Chen asked, her voice gentle. Lily looked at Shadow before answering. She always looked at Shadow before answering. The dog gave her courage. "Better," Lily said quietly. "Emma shared her cookies with me at lunch. She said I could sit with her every day if I wanted." "And do you want to?" Lily nodded slowly. "I think so. She's nice. She doesn't ask questions about why I was gone for so long." "That's good, Lily. Making friends takes time. You're doing wonderfully." "Shadow helps?" Lily reached down and stroked the dog's ear. "When I get scared, I pet him, and then I remember he's there, and then I'm not so scared anymore." Dr. Chen smiled. "Shadow is a very special dog." "The best dog," Lily corrected. "Daddy says he's the best dog in the whole world." In the waiting room, Marcus listened through the slightly open door. Every session he sat here and listened. Not because he didn't trust Dr. Chen, because he needed to hear his daughter's voice, needed to track her progress. needed to know that the darkness was slowly fading. It was fading. Not gone. Not yet. Maybe not ever completely. But fading. The nightmares came less frequently now. Once a week instead of every night. Lily still flinched sometimes when someone raised their voice. She still hoarded food in her room, hiding crackers under her pillow, unable to trust that tomorrow's meals would come. But she laughed now. Real laughter, the kind that came from her belly and lit up her whole face. She played in the backyard with Shadow. She watched cartoons on Saturday mornings. She asked Marcus to read her stories before bed, and when he did, she fell asleep with her hand buried in Shadow's fur. Small victories. Precious victories. The door opened, and Lily emerged, Shadow at her heels. "Daddy." She ran to him, and he scooped her up, holding her close. She still weighed less than she should, but her cheeks were round now. Her arms had muscle. She looked like a child again, not a skeleton. "How was it, baby?" "Good. Dr. Chen says I'm doing wonderfully." "You are. You're the bravest girl I've ever known." "Braver than you?" Marcus laughed. "Way braver than me." They walked out of the clinic into the spring sunshine. The air was warm. Flowers were blooming. The world was alive with color and hope. "Daddy." "Yeah, baby. Is today the day?" Marcus's heart tightened. He knew what she was asking. Today was the day Diana's trial concluded. Today was the day the jury would deliver its verdict. "Yes, sweetheart. Today's the day." "Will she go to prison?" "I think so. The lawyers say the evidence is very strong." "Good." Lily's voice was small but firm. "She should go to prison. She was mean." Mean. Such a simple word for such monstrous cruelty. But Lily was 5 years old. She didn't have words for what Diana had done to her. Mean was enough. "What about the other man?" Lily asked. "The one who smelled like smoke." "He's already in prison, remember? He's never getting out." Never, ever, never, ever. Frank Morrison had been sentenced 3 months ago. 47 counts of child exploitation. 12 victims identified. Evidence recovered from his computers that dated back 2 decades. The judge had shown no mercy. Life without parole. Frank would die behind bars, surrounded by men who knew exactly what he had done. In prison, child predators were the lowest of the low. Marcus tried not to feel satisfaction at the thought of what Frank's life would be like now. He didn't try very hard. They drove home in comfortable silence, Shadow's head poking between the front seats, his tongue lolling happily. When they pulled into the driveway, Lily gasped. "Daddy, what's that?" A brand new swing set stood in the backyard, bright yellow and blue with 2 swings a slide and a small climbing wall. "Happy birthday, baby." "But my birthday was last month." "I know, but you were still in the hospital last month, so we're celebrating now. Is that okay?" Lily was already unbuckling her seatbelt, her eyes wide with joy. "Can I swing? Can I swing right now?" "You can swing all day long if you want." She burst out of the car and ran for the swing set, Shadow bounding beside her. Marcus watched her climb onto the swing, her small hands gripping the chains, her feet pumping. "Push me, Daddy. Push me high." He walked over and stood behind her, his hands finding her back. "Ready, ready." He pushed, gently at first, then higher, as she squealed with delight. "Higher, Daddy, higher." He pushed her higher, watching her hair fly in the wind, listening to her laughter echo across the yard. Shadow ran in circles beneath her, barking with joy, his tail wagging so hard his whole body wiggled. This was what he had fought for. This moment, this laughter, this ordinary, extraordinary afternoon in the backyard with his daughter and his dog. This was everything. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. "Keep swinging, baby. I need to check something." He stepped aside and looked at the screen. 3 messages from Jenny. "Verdict is in. Diana convicted on all counts. Sentencing tomorrow. Prosecution asking for maximum. It's over, Marcus. You can finally breathe." Marcus read the messages twice. 3 times. His hands were shaking. Convicted on all counts. Child abuse, child neglect, conspiracy to commit exploitation, obstruction of justice. Diana would spend the next 20 years in prison. Minimum. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Lily had stopped swinging. She was watching him with those big blue eyes, the ones that saw too much, that understood too much. Marcus put his phone away and walked back to her. "Nothing's wrong, baby. Something's very right. The jury decided that Diana has to go to prison for a long, long time." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded once. "Okay. Are you okay?" "I think so." She looked at Shadow, who had come to sit beside her swing. "Dr. Chen says it's okay to be happy and sad at the same time. Is that true?" "Yeah, baby. That's true. I'm happy she can't hurt me anymore. But I'm sad she was so mean. I kept thinking maybe she would be nice someday. Maybe if I was good enough, she would love me." Marcus's heart cracked open. He knelt in front of his daughter, taking her small hands in his. "Listen to me, Lily. What happened was never your fault. You were always good enough. You were always worthy of love. Diana was broken inside. Something was wrong with her that had nothing to do with you." "Okay. Okay. Say it back to me. It wasn't my fault. Again. It wasn't my fault." Lily's voice was stronger now. "One more time. It wasn't my fault, Daddy. I was always good enough." Marcus pulled her into his arms, lifting her off the swing, holding her against his chest. "That's right, baby. You were always good enough. And you always will be." Shadow pressed against them both, completing the circle. 3 hearts beating together. A family forged in fire, tempered by suffering, held together by love. They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's warmth. Then Lily pulled back with a mischievous grin. "Daddy, yeah, can we get ice cream?" Marcus laughed. A real laugh. The kind he hadn't been capable of 8 months ago. "We can get all the ice cream you want." They piled into the car and drove to Lily's favorite ice cream shop. She ordered chocolate with sprinkles. Marcus ordered vanilla. Shadow got a small cup of plain vanilla, a reward for being the best dog in the whole world. They sat on a bench outside, watching people walk by, enjoying the simple pleasure of sugar and sunshine. "Daddy, yeah, I want to tell you something." "You can tell me anything, baby." Lily took a deep breath. Her small face was serious, focused. "When I was in the closet, I used to talk to Mommy. Not Diana. My real Mommy, the one in the pictures." Marcus went still. "Sarah. She was talking about Sarah." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I was scared. I told her I missed her. I asked her to send help." Lily looked at Shadow. And then Shadow would scratch at the door, every time, like Mommy sent him to tell me it was going to be okay. What tears burned in Marcus's eyes. Maybe she did send him. "You think so?" "I think your Mommy loves you very much, even though she's in heaven. And I think she would have done anything to protect you. So yeah, baby. Maybe she did send Shadow. Maybe she sent him to watch over you until I could come home." Lily smiled. A real smile. Bright and warm and full of hope. I think so too. She looked at Shadow again. Thank you, Mommy. Thank you for sending me the best dog. Shadow wagged his tail. They finished their ice cream and drove home. The afternoon faded into evening, and evening faded into night. Marcus tucked Lily into bed, Shadow jumping up to take his usual position at her feet. Story, Daddy. Which one? The one about the princess and the brave knight. Again, we've read that one 100 times. I like it. The princess rescues herself. She doesn't need anyone to save her. Marcus smiled. Even in her darkest moments, Lily had understood something important. She wasn't a victim. She was a survivor. She had held on, fought back, kept hoping. She had rescued herself. He read the story doing different voices for each character, making Lily giggle at his terrible princess impression. When he finished, her eyes were drooping. Daddy, yeah, baby, I love you. I love you too, Lily, more than anything in the whole world. I love Shadow too. Shadow loves you back. Don't you, boy? Shadow lifted his head and licked Lily's hand once. Then he settled back down with a contented sigh. Daddy, yeah. I'm glad you came home. Marcus leaned down and kissed her forehead. I'm glad too, baby. Go to sleep now. I'll be right here if you need me. Promise. Promise. Cross your heart. Cross my heart. Lily's eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. Within minutes, she was asleep. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed for a long time, watching her chest rise and fall, listening to Shadow's soft snores, feeling the peace settle over the room like a warm blanket. It wasn't perfect. There would still be hard days. There would still be setbacks and tears and moments when the darkness tried to creep back in. But they would face it together. A father. A daughter. A dog. 3 survivors who had walked through hell and emerged on the other side, scarred but not broken, wounded, but not defeated. Marcus stood quietly and walked to the door. He looked back one more time at his daughter and his dog, both sleeping peacefully in the soft glow of the nightlight. Thank you, Sarah, he whispered. Thank you for sending him to her. I'll take it from here. He closed the door gently and walked downstairs. The house was quiet. The night was calm. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, new moments of joy and pain. But tonight, everyone he loved was safe. And that was enough. That was everything. 3 months later, Marcus stood in front of a crowd at the Willow Creek Community Center. Lily sat in the front row, Shadow beside her, both wearing matching blue bandanas that read, "Heroes have 4 legs." Thank you all for coming, Marcus said, his voice steady but emotional. When I started this foundation, I didn't know if anyone would care. But looking at this room, I see that I was wrong. You care. You care about protecting children. You care about giving a voice to the voiceless. He looked at Lily. She smiled and gave him a thumbs up. The Shadow Foundation exists because of a dog who refused to give up. When my daughter was suffering, when no one knew what was happening behind closed doors, Shadow stayed. He shared his food. He guarded her door. He kept her alive until help could arrive. Marcus paused, composing himself. Every child deserves a shadow. Someone who watches over them. Someone who never gives up on them. Someone who loves them unconditionally, even when the world turns dark. That's what this foundation is about. Training service dogs to recognize signs of abuse. Placing them in homes where children are at risk. Giving the vulnerable a protector when they need one most. The crowd applauded. Lily stood up, and Shadow stood with her. They walked to the stage together, and Lily took the microphone from her father. "Hi," she said, her voice small but clear. "My name is Lily. Shadow saved my life." The room went silent. When I was scared, he stayed with me. When I was hungry, he shared his food. When I cried, he licked my tears. He never left me, not even once. She looked at Shadow, her eyes shining. "Daddy says Shadow is a hero, but I think he's more than that. He's my best friend, he's my family, and because of him, I'm not scared anymore." Lily took a deep breath. If you know a kid who's sad, be like Shadow. Stay with them. Don't give up on them. Love them even when they can't love themselves. That's what Shadow taught me, and that's what I want to teach everyone else. The crowd rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous. Marcus lifted Lily into his arms, Shadow pressing against them both. Cameras flashed. Reporters called out questions. But in that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was the little girl in his arms, healthy and strong and brave. What mattered was the dog at his side, loyal and loving and true. What mattered was the future stretching out before them, bright with possibility. They had walked through fire. They had faced monsters. They had survived the unimaginable. And they had emerged not as victims, but as victors. Not as broken, but as whole. Not as alone, but as family. The Shadow Foundation would go on to place over 300 service dogs with at-risk children in its first 5 years. Each dog trained to recognize signs of abuse. Each dog equipped to alert authorities. Each dog prepared to do what Shadow had done: stay, protect, love. Lily grew up to become a child psychologist, specializing in trauma recovery. She kept Shadow's collar in a glass case on her desk, a reminder of the dog who had saved her life. Marcus never remarried. He didn't need to. His family was complete. And Shadow lived to the remarkable age of 16. He spent his final years basking in the sun on the back porch, watching Lily grow up, enjoying the peace he had earned. When he died quietly in his sleep, Lily was holding his paw. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for staying. Thank you for never giving up. I'll see you again someday, boy. I promise." She buried him in the backyard beneath the swing set where they had spent so many happy afternoons. She planted flowers on his grave lilies, her mother's favorite. And every year on the anniversary of the night her father came home, Lily would sit beside that grave and tell Shadow everything that had happened. The lives saved. The children protected. The legacy that continued. "You started all of this, boy," she would say. "You showed the world what love looks like, and the world listened." The wind would rustle through the trees, carrying the scent of lilies and spring, and Lily would smile, knowing that somewhere Shadow was listening. Somewhere Shadow was proud. Because love never dies. It just changes form. It becomes the flowers on a grave. The collar in a glass case. The foundation that saves lives. It becomes the story we tell our children and the story they tell theirs. It becomes the hope that survives the darkness. It becomes everything. This story reminds us that the most powerful force in the universe is not hatred or cruelty or fear. It is love. The love of a father who never stopped fighting. The love of a daughter who never stopped hoping. The love of a dog who never stopped protecting. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. And remember, be someone's shadow today. Stay. Protect. Love. Because you never know whose life you might save. May God bless you and your family with safety, with peace, and with the kind of love that never gives up. If you believe in that love type, amen in the comments below.